Is this Arsenal's year? Welcome back to the Arsenal Heroes podcast with me, Luce. I hope you're all good. Let's get straight into the warm-up poll. And this week, I thought, you know what? Let's say a question that is pretty much giving delusional Arsenal fan, which we get that reputation a lot as Arsenal fans, especially of the men's side. But I feel like right now, things are actually going all right. And I don't want to jinx it, but I thought, you know what? With the women's side, things have gone a little bit uneasy, a little bit uncomfortable right now. There's a lot of disconnection. That is the word I kept using in last week's episode. If you haven't checked it out, I suggest checking that out, because I basically was talking about what I think is sort of going wrong. But luckily, the games we're reflecting on this week, things seem to be turning around for the women's side. But focusing on the men's, I was like, right, we're actually doing all right. We're sat top of the table. We've been winning the last few games, not even just like casually winning it. Like, the performances haven't been amazing, but we've been getting it over the line. We've had a lot of injuries as well, so there's a lot of reasons why maybe we shouldn't have been. But anyways, I thought I'd ask, is this Arsenal's year? Is this the year that Arsenal finally get it over the line and actually win the Premier League, which is really tough to do. Like, I feel like people underestimate it. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to win it. But anyways, I thought I'd put that poll out because I was like, we have a chance. Let me go on my Instagram, which is luce.case, in case you want to vote future polls. I usually post them like on a Monday or Tuesday. If you want to go vote and contribute to this podcast, I love it. Thank you for doing that if you have. 71% of you said yes, this is Arsenal's year. 29% of you said no. And I feel like I'm a bit on the fence. Like, I don't want to commit to saying, oh yeah, we're going to do it all this soon, because it is still so early on in the season. And if you went back to my predictions video for the season, I said I reckon Arsenal will come third in the Premier League and first in the UWCL. That's not really aged that well. If anything, I feel like it is probably going to end up as the opposite. If anyone's going to win the league right now, it's looking likely that the men can do it if they can sustain this lead. Obviously, a lot of you guys, I feel like I do have a lot of Arsenal fans, but either way, no matter if you're Arsenal or not, you're feeling confident with Arsenal, which is actually a really nice position to be in. I feel like I am a bit on the fence. If I had to lean to one side, I will go with the majority, because I do think, once again, majority's right, that if it's not happening now, like, when will it happen? Like, why not? Why can't we win the league is basically my thought process. So I'm feeling pretty confident. I don't want to say too much on it now though, because obviously it is still early days, but we're in a very good position. I'm going to get into the game that saw us extend our lead. And also this week we've obviously had United winning against Liverpool, which has obviously helped us out as well. So we've had a few other fixtures go our way. So it's been a very good week in terms of the men's game. Women's game, it's been a bit mismatch, I guess, but this week as a whole it has been good. So yeah, I'm going to get straight into the episode. Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on what Arsenal men can do this season. Do you think we'll be able to lift that Premier League trophy at the end of this season? It's hard to do that, but I feel like right now we're in a good spot. So let me know your thoughts. But anyways, let's get straight into what's happened this week. Because yeah, I'm scrolling through and there's been a lot of stuff. Okay, so before we get into the games, obviously we've got a Women's Champions League game to look at and a Men's Premier League game to focus on. But I feel like there's been a lot of stories that have come out of Arsenal this week, good and bad. Starting off on quite a negative note, Zinsberger has joined the list of ACL injuries and joined the ever-growing list of Arsenal injuries as a whole, which is worrying because we obviously know that DVD is not going on the international break, which obviously the men have just come back from there. The women are going on theirs this week. She's not competing internationally either, so I feel like it's quite a worrying time for Arsenal in terms of goalkeepers. Like, I'm hoping DVD can have the rest. Obviously ACL injuries, we've seen so many happen in the women's game, such a lack of research I feel like has been put into it. But more recent we've been seeing boots have changed and more suited for women's football. I feel like there's more focus been on it. Sadly, this is just another play that has added to the exhausting list of players that have suffered an ACL injury. So obviously we hope she has a speedy recovery, because it's not a nice thing to go through. So hopefully she'll be back before we know it. I feel like they've got good care at Arsenal, and I feel like when you're in the professional game you have a lot of support, so I'm hoping it can speed up that recovery, because we will need her when it comes to the games further down the line where we'll be competing in FA Cups, league games as well. We'll need that rotation if we can have it. So yes, we'll need her, but also for herself, I hope she's doing good with that. On the kind of opposite of that, obviously we've seen a few players get injured. We've seen Williamson actually step back into the training ground. It's been reported on loads of different channels that Williamson is now training again, which is really great for Arsenal, because I feel like, I mean, if you look at my episode last week, the one before, it's been a lot of worry about that centre-back duo, so it would be great to see her back in there. We've also had Olivia Smith and Martin Zubimendi both get their respective leagues' goals of the September, if that makes sense. I feel like that was worded really weird, but basically Olivia Smith got the WSL goal of the season, which obviously was when she scored that rocket kick from outside the box on her debut, and then Zubimendi got his one for the Premier League, which is just great to see Arsenal on the map in a league format as well, not even just like closed doors that they've won their Arsenal goals of the month, they've actually won the Premier League or the WSL goals of the month, so that's really encouraging. I feel like there's a lot to get through. Max Dowman is the youngest ever goal scorer in England under 19s, which he's obviously still 15, so it's great to see him breaking so many records that I feel like have literally just been set by Ethan Waneri last season. Miles Lewis-Skelly set some records as well. Saka's set records. I feel like we're setting a lot of records, which is really good to see. And linked to that as well, on the international break, obviously the men are back now, but Marino did play 4 games for Spain and he scored 6 times. So that is incredible to see that. And it's nice to see him. Obviously, we saw him come on at the weekend against Fulham. It's good to see them get him some game time because he's obviously successful for Spain. So why can't he have that success at Arsenal? So it's good to see him get the runabout. And I also feel like last season as well, he did have quite a bit of success for us, stepping in as that makeshift striker basically. So it's just great to see him getting the flowers he deserves. And I think, is that all? Oh no, the last thing is that Taylor Hines and Katie Reid have got their first senior England call-up, which is just amazing to see the future Lionesses be shaped by a lot of gunners, basically. I feel like we've seen it. Obviously, we've got Michelle Ajman. Yes, she's out on loan, but she made history in this Euros. We had the last Euros, we had the likes of Russo, who obviously is a household name, Chloe Kelly, who obviously they both weren't for that tournament playing for Arsenal, but now they are. So I feel like we've got a lot of Arsenal players in that squad, and it's great to see the next generations are getting their first call-ups. And yeah, the future of the Lionesses is quite Arsenal dominated, so I'm very excited about that. But yeah, they're just quite a few points that sort of have happened this week, and I was like, I've got to mention it, because I feel like every time I come away from filming it and then I went to go to post it on socials and I'm like, oh my god, I should have said this, I should have said that. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff, a lot of waffle basically, just before we get into the actual games. So obviously we've got to first start with the Benfica 0, Arsenal 2 in the Women's Champions League. I did actually predict this game to be a 3-2 win, and either way we won, so I'm very happy. It means we didn't actually concede, which is obviously really great as well. Also, the bonus, it means that we are undefeated twice in Lisbon in just a year, because obviously it's taken me I've been recording for about 5 minutes now. It's taken me 5 minutes to mention the Champions League, which I feel like is what a lot of Arsenal women's fans are holding on to right now, because that is our last bit of proper success, and obviously it's success that no other women's side in England has had, so I feel like it's a good one to hold on to. But before I waffle about the game, let me say my 3 takeaways or 3 learnings, 3 points basically from the game. The first one is that Arsenal can rely on Russo. I think Russo is one of those players that sometimes gets a little bit underlooked. I feel like some people think she's a bit overhyped because she's not always getting those goals, yet she gets credit, but I think that credit is very much deserved because she's one of the most hard-working players. I think what she does off the ball is just as important. And obviously, we're focusing on the Champions League. She's got 2 goals in 2 games. Yes, we did end up losing the first game 2-1, but just to get on that score sheet, especially against a side that is tough, it is impressive from her. Also, I think it's really important to mention Chloe Kelly, because I feel like her coming on the pitch, not sure why she's not starting, if I'm honest. That free kick that she took, just how she reads the game, it's so clever, because she's able to provide those balls for the likes of Russo, who always will score it when she has the chance. So I think that link up in play is really good. But another reason why we can rely on Russo, which sort of links to that, if she's not getting that service, if she's not getting that delivery, which I feel like is something we've seen quite a bit recently. There's a video that Thierry Henry was talking about Arsene Wenger this week and saying how he always taught him, if you're not being fed the ball, what can you still do? How can you get the ball when you're not being fed it, basically? And I think that's something Russo does very well. She just needs to maybe turn it into even more goals in the league. But in terms of the Champions League, she is finding that net, so we can rely on Russo. The second point is that our fan base never disappoints. I feel like Arsenal women's fan base, yes, it's historically known over the last few decades, we've got the biggest fan base, and it's growing and growing. And one reason it keeps growing is obviously because of Farah, who's the chair of the Arsenal Women's Supporters Club, and loads of other people part of that team. She was actually on, I think it was episode 3 of the Arsenal Humans Fan Zone, if you want to hear more about her story, her connection with Arsenal, and what she is doing with the Supporters Club and the hopes for the future as well. There's a lot of exciting stuff over on that episode, so I definitely would recommend you check it out to learn a bit more about her. But I think what they are doing over there, they're just creating this community, and we are paving the way as Arsenal fans, because we're going to games like this. And I sadly couldn't go there because I was working that night and I was working the next day, so I just couldn't get over to Lisbon. But it was so great to see so many people there, and it was funny because Lotte Wiebenmoy had she put a video on, I think it was a picture or video on socials, and literally it was like of them trying to do like the eyes to see all the way to the fans, because it looked like they were up in the top corner, which looked quite funny. But I think it just sort of reinforces how Arsenal fan base will travel anywhere. Home and away isn't an understatement when it comes to the women's side. So very proud to be part of that club. And also another reason why I think Arsenal women's fan space is set apart is I saw this post on Instagram by 443, and it was basically a man wearing shirts that sort of combine like the men's and women's names. So like he had a shirt that said Rice-Russo on the back, and then the number was obviously the accumulation of both together. He had another one of like Saxtenius, which obviously was Bukayo Saka and Sina Blackstenius together. And I was just like, it's so nice to see that one club mentality that is obviously in the club and in the players themselves, which is reinforced, but it also filters down into the fan base. So yeah, second point was just a reminder that Arsenal fans are basically the best. And the third thing is that, yes, there's been a few worries recently. I've voiced quite a few on this podcast, and I know so many people else have on their own socials, and just having general chats in the pub. But in this game, there are a few moments of hope, which, yeah, a couple months of not really getting convincing wins, not even getting wins, getting draws, or if we did win, it would maybe be if we concede. And I just feel like the last 2 games have been a bit more promising because we're getting goals off our own back. Yes, their first goal was, I think it was like an own goal, but it kind of came off Beth Mead. But either way, it was the hard work of us, and it wasn't like a blatant own goal. And then obviously the work of Chloe Kelly that I mentioned earlier with Russo. I just feel like there's moments that we want to perform, even ones that don't find the net, like Wiebenmoy being on the pitch firstly was great to see her there. Her header in, I think it was just shy of the 30th minute, was so close to going in the net. I just think it's really encouraging to see. So there's a lot of hope. I'm feeling more hopeful going into the international break for the women's side. So that is good at least. After a bit of a rocky start to the season, I feel like we're slowly finding our feet. There are still a few worries, but I feel like after the international break, maybe this is the perfect reset that we need, basically. Looking at the men's game, which happened obviously like 2 days ago on Saturday, it was Fulham 0, Arsenal 1, a classic 1-0 to Arsenal. I did predict a 3-0 win, but I'm just happy we got the point because there were moments where I was like, oh, what's going on? So yeah, it was great for us to get the points. Obviously, it triggered my question at the start, can Arsenal actually do it this season? Is this Arsenal season? And I feel like there were glimpses that this maybe could be because it wasn't the most attractive football, but we got it over the line, and that is all that matters right now. 3 takeaways from the game. The first one is that set pieces are sustainable at Arsenal. I mean, this is something we already know. Corner FC is back in action. I think obviously Saka mentioned in his post-match interview with Sky, he was like, my first few like corners and set pieces in general weren't that great, but then he ended up obviously finding it to get the goal when it came obviously off, I think it was like Trossard's fight, basically hit off. Either way, it found the net, so it's great to see that our set pieces are setting us apart, which is really good. I do feel like this takeaway is sort of just more of a feeling rather than what actually happened in the game, but I feel like there's a new chapter. I feel like we're turning a leaf in this book, that Arsenal learning how to actually get the 3 points and how to sustain that lead, because there were moments where I thought, oh no, like what I was saying before with the last week's episode with the Brighton 1-0 win for the women's side, I was like, oh no, like it's scary because when a 1-0 was so unsettling because you could always equalise and then they could go ahead, but it wasn't the most glamorous football, but we did get it over the line, so that's all that matters. And the final takeaway is that Calafiori is class. This player, I know a lot of people were raving about him when he first joined, and obviously, yes, his goal was offside, but it was such beautiful movement from him, the way he was able to take it out his feet, find the top right now. Obviously, it didn't actually count as a goal, but it was just great to see that, and I think in so many aspects of the game, he dominated. Him and Rice together, crazy, because I feel like our turnover in play is so good, and the way that obviously he is a defensive player, but he was pushing up that far, having that confidence. You need players like that in your squad to make those differences, basically. So I'm very happy we obviously signed him, because I feel like he's been a great addition, and it's almost just making it even more competitive at the back, because we know that we have basically the best centre-back duo in the league, probably one of the best in the world. I don't think anyone can argue with me on that one. And then it's nice when you've got people either side that are emphasising that are reinforcing how solid we are at the back. And that's why we've kept another clean sheet, which obviously hats off to David Raya, but I feel like he didn't really have too much to do that game. And that is partly because of our midfield turnover and also our solid defensive units. So very happy with that. I feel like as a whole, I predicted 2 wins this week. We got 2 wins, so I feel like it's been a good week. And we've got 2 games to look ahead to. Obviously, I said the women are on their international break, but let's get into the men's. Okay, it's already the end of the episode. We have 2 games to look ahead to. I'm going to keep it quite short and brief. So tomorrow night, I'm hoping the boys give me a birthday treat with a win, with the 3 points, because we're in the Champions League. Obviously, it's now the new league format, so we need those points are very, very crucial later down the line. Arsenal versus Atletico Madrid. It's at 8 p.m. I'm going to straight up go with a 2-1 win. And then later on in the week, obviously, like I said before, there's no women's games this week, but the men are back in Premier League action against Palace. It's another home game. We've actually got 2 home games this week, which is quite nice. That's Sunday the 26th at 2 p.m. I feel like Palace have been quite good recently. I feel like we can't underestimate, obviously what they did with Bournemouth. Bournemouth dominated the whole first hour of the game, and then they managed to get it back towards the end. Palace did, which takes a lot. Obviously, they got the 2-1 win over Liverpool. I feel like Palace are looking good this season, so we can't underestimate them. I reckon they'll be able to get some goals. I reckon Arteta will definitely be able to get some goals. Obviously, we'll see Nketiah play again, who used to play for Arsenal, so that'll be interesting, that dynamic. But I'm going to go with a 3-2 win, I reckon. So yeah, I'm predicting 2 more wins for this week, but we had 2 wins in last week, so, anything is possible. But yeah, that is basically everything I had to say this episode. If there's anything, as always, you guys want to mention in the comments below based on what I've said this week, what's happening next week, anything at all in terms of Arsenal, then I'm all ears. I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially on that opening question, that warm-up poll. Is this Arsenal's year? That is the main question. You can answer it in terms of the women's if you want, but I feel like it might be slightly more optimistic in terms of the men's. But yeah, I feel like there's a sense of more hope, a sense of more optimism compared to last week and the last few episodes as a whole. So I'm feeling positive. So yeah, if you did enjoy this, give me a thumbs up, follow if you want, subscribe if you want. Not sure if you're listening or watching on Spotify or YouTube, but yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts, and yeah, I will do an episode probably next Tuesday. Have a good week.